My session is about AI-powered programming and development. I hope that all of you can hear me. Great? That's good. So I'll skip my introduction, and I will leave that to you guys if you find this session interesting. You can find my profile on the speaker agenda, and then we can connect over the internet, all right? This agenda for this presentation is very simple. We are going to explore the answer of 3 questions, all right? What, why, and how. So to make this interesting, if we define what, we have pretty much 2 approaches to understand what. One is that you start understanding the features, benefits of the tool or technology, or be it anything that you're trying to understand. The other approach is that you understand it from the perspective of those who are working with that tool or technology, right? And you get a gut feeling about that thing. Well, this thing has such potential or not. So this is the approach that we are going to take. And in addition to this approach, we are also going to look at this tool by the metaphoric story that we have heard in our childhood. So before we go to the story, let's first listen what other people are talking about this tool. So I think all of us know Sundar Pichai, right? So back in 2020, the guy said, the artificial intelligence is one of the most profound things we are working on as humanity. It's more profound than fire or electricity. Just imagine, the guy is literally comparing it with fire and electricity. If you look around, and most probably, most of the time, the things that you are interacting with are either fueled by fire or electricity, or it's a direct or indirect product of it, right? So when someone is comparing it with fire and electricity, and definitely it's, the person is not just someone, he is the one who is actually the person who envisioned the bard, and now it's Gemini. So he's the someone who understands the technology in its totality. So the guy, this quote should give you the magnitude feeling about the technology itself, right? And if we look at the another quote from John Searle, he talked about computer program back in 1980. He said that in the literal sense, the programmed computer understands what the car or the adding machine understand, namely exactly nothing. So in one quote, we just looked at the magnitude of the technology, but in the another quote, we are just telling it just a computer program. It's just a computer program, right? So I hope that these 2 contradictory quotes are giving you certain feeling about what we are going to explore or what the technology is all about. Is it? Well, that's great then. Well, can anyone tell me what this picture is all about? Aladdin ka genie, right? Right. So if you remember this story, the Aladdin was a simple guy from the streets of Arabia, and he wanted to get married with king's daughter, right? So now in literal sense, an ordinary person who wants to get married with king's daughter is like an impossible task if you look at it from the practical point of view. But fortunately, he come across that cave. He went into that cave and he found that magical oil lamp, which when he scratched it, some mystical figure appeared, right? And what did that mystical figure say to Aladdin? Hukum mere aka, right? It literally translates to those people who doesn't understand Hindi. It means, command me, my lord. The genie had one condition. He was very neutral. The genie was like, it doesn't matter who is invoking me. Whoever invokes me, I will work for that person. And if you have heard the story, you pretty much know that genie also helped the enemy of Aladdin, right? But fortunately, Aladdin was a good guy, and he understood how to make use of genie, and then eventually he got married with king's daughter. Well, I brought this story on table because I wanted to give you the metaphoric reference to what we are discussing now. The genie is AI. Can you tell me who is Aladdin here? Us, yeah. So we are ordinary people. We don't want to get married with king's daughter, definitely. It's a metaphoric reference. We wanted to see that the marrying to king's daughter is the outcome, the magnitude of outcome that we are seeking, right? So we seek such great or huge outcome, but at the same time we are simply Aladdin. But now fortunately we have our genie, and let's explore what that genie can do. Now in technical terminology, I just want to quickly elaborate two distinctive features about AI technology. It's their generative capability. Of course, most of the people understand what generative capabilities are, so I'll skip that part. And the another one is the transformative capability. By transformative, I mean that the technology has a power to transform the very way we work, the very way our industries work. You know, back in time, when industrial revolution happened, there was so much manual labor was going on. And then thanks to machines and all the automations, those manual labor went away, and we incorporated the technology in its totality. This is one such technology. You believe it or not, very soon, most probably in coming years, you will see that all the industry are using the AI technology in one way or another, right? So it has such a power. Now, we will try to distill the second question that we had, why? Well, we explored what, and to be honest, why do we care about this technology at all? Well, we care about this technology because we have problems, right? In our day-to-day life, when we do programming, when we do development, we are faced with different kinds of problems that we want to solve. Can someone tell me what kinds of problems we face when it comes to programming or development? Someone from the team? Writing the code, right? Anyone else? Exactly, proper syntax. We have many problems, just so you know, my friend, but I'm going to just mention few of those many, all right? And if you look at the different problems that I have mentioned, we have problem with creating boilerplate code, we are facing problem with breaking down the requirements, we also want to understand how can we do research implementation options, in other words, POCs. We also want to understand and learn new technology. As my friend said, we always find it difficult to remember the syntax. And at the same time, when we want to review someone else's code, it's a big problem. We all have faced it. Well, let's see how can we use tools to address these problems. And now we come to our third question that we will answer, and that's how. All right, just to recap, we explored what the technology is from the different perspective, right? We tried to get that gut feeling. Then we also listened the metaphoric story of Aladdin and his genie. Then we understood why we want to learn this technology, and now we are at the position where we will try to actually see the tools and technology in action, and we'll try to address this question of how, all right? So I'll just keep the how approach very simple. What we are going to do here is that we will explore the tool, and then we will see the tool in action, all right? Very simple and to the point. So the first tool, I know that all of you have heard about this tool, all of you have used this tool, but I just want to give you a brief brush up with the different way of using this tool. And then you see if this tool makes sense for you or not. Well, there is this concept called prompt engineering, right? I think some of you may have heard about this concept. The concept is literally relatively new. But what it says is that if you understand the patterns which makes a real sense when you interact with the AI technologies, the possibility of getting right answers is really huge, right? So I have finalized, or you can say that I have derived some of the patterns which you or your developer can use right away to address different kinds of needs that you have in your day-to-day programming, right? So the first problem, the first pattern that you could use is to generate a boilerplate code. All you have to do is that you go to ChatGPT or be it any generative AI tool. Just say that the generate boilerplate code that, then you define what you want it to do, right? You could literally say that, generate a boilerplate code that reads file from Linux server in You can mention tools, frameworks, libraries, and all these things, right? So I literally said, generate boilerplate code that reads file from Linux server in Golang using its native library. And this is the output it had generated. If you look, it has properly generated the right output with its native library, and at the end, it has also explained what it has generated, right? Now, typically, this is just one example. Just think about the random scenario. You may be writing a code. You need to generate a quick regex, right? Most of the time, we go to Stack Overflow, explore a couple of Medium articles, and then we come across then we copy the regex, and then we try it out and see whether it's the right one or not. So in such kind of scenarios where you need to generate a boilerplate code, you can use this kind of pattern, right? The second prompt that you could use is to compare tools and technology. So you can literally type it out like, I'm building a new, explain what you are building and want to compare first comparison item with second comparison item. Please propose the scope for a simple, what you are building, and generate 2 code bases. And then you can extend this prompt if you want, but just for an example, we take a look at the video that I have recorded. I told it that I want to build a web server in Golang and Java, define a scope, build it, and then explain me and compare Golang and Java from the point of view of that web server. So it literally generated this output as you are seeing on my screen, that this is the Golang implementation. It also mentioned that how can I run that implementation on my local machine. Then it also generated Java implementation. You know, it correctly picked up the Spring. Spring is, those who are not familiar with Java, Spring is quite popular and well-known framework in Java community. And then in the conclusion, it mentioned what are the difference between Golang and Java when it comes to generating this kind of output, right? So this prompt is something that you can not only use it to compare two technology or tools. You can use it to generate a different POCs, or you can incorporate this prompt when you are researching something. For example, some of the guy came here, talked about Hiva themes, you know, the reward CLI. Maybe you could use this prompt to generate a quick POC for Magento and right away test it. Otherwise, it would have been taking so many hours or many days for you to finalize or route some code on your own, right? The third pattern is that you can summarize the media formats. So recently what happened with one of the projects that I was working on was that we created a website, but then we wanted to make it compatible for disabled people, right? So when you want to make content available to disabled people, you need to describe it. You need to make it compatible for screen readers. So for such scenario, you can quickly use this pattern and ask it to summarize it for your purpose. So pattern is like very simple. Summarize this, then your media format for the purpose. What's my purpose? My purpose is for the alt text attribute of an image tag. And it rightly understood the image, and it said promotional image for Meet Magento event featuring Milan Savaliya, CEO, as a speaker in Ahmedabad on February 10, 2024, organized by Wagento and Evrig. So just imagine what you can do with this kind of prompts, right? There are many different prompts that I have collected and summarized. If you want, I can send those over to you. But we will stop ourselves here and move to the next tool, that is Amazon Code Whisperer and Q. How many of you are familiar with Amazon Code Whisperer? Oh, that's great. Well, this is going to be an interesting session for sure. All right, so this is something like you generate your code from the documentation. So Amazon Code Whisperer is a tool which lives inside your IDE or text editor that you use. Most of the time we are using Visual Studio Code or PyCharm or any product from the JetBrains family, right? So this is one simple demo where I have just simply mentioned the comment that I want to write a AWS Lambda handler, which exports a single function that takes the operand property from the event input, squares it, and returns it. And it generated code for that automatically. Just imagine this, that what you can achieve with AWS Code Whisperer to address this kind of use cases. The second one is the auto guessing. In previous one, I told it that this is what I want to do. In this case, I'm not doing it. I simply started writing code, and it is automatically guessing what I'm trying to do. You just need to make sure that your function names, you're following good coding guidelines. That's it. This is code generation from the comment. For example, you are writing a lengthy function, and in between that function, you want to import a quick boilerplate code, which does what you want it to do. You can simply ask it and write an inline comment, and it will generate a code from it. Here, I'm asking it to generate a code for upload local file to bucket, and it has automatically generated that code for me, right? This is one of the boring part that we all had. So we all love to write code, but we don't want to generate documentation for it, right? So this could be a smart way out. You can use this tool to generate documentation for you. All you have to do is to start typing out comments. That's it. And that it will automatically figure out what your arguments are, what type of arguments they are, depending on how you have used within the function, and it will generate the code for you. Well, I guess this will save a lot of time for all of you. The Amazon queue. What we just explored was Amazon Code Whisperer, a lightweight generative AI IDE plugin or a tool within your IDE, which helps you while you write your code. This is something which is more like a chat GPT, a conversational window with whom you can interact right from within your IDE. Now take a look at this video. I have someone else's code written. I want to understand what this code is exactly doing. I can literally ask it, explain this code to me, and it will explain that code very, very quickly and summarize it very easily for me. And if I'm not happy with the explanation, I can ask it to dig deeper and ask it, like, explain this same thing with more information. And now this will go in detail, identify what libraries you have used within the code, and then it will also start elaborating those libraries. So you can literally talk with this tool and figure out what your code is doing. You can literally talk with this tool and ask it to fetch the brief introduction about this library and tell me what it is doing. Isn't this fantastic, guys? Refactoring code. Most of the time when we want to achieve the deadline, we just write the code the way we think it's right. But when we want to refactor it, we always need a good software engineer who really understands the coding patterns and all these things. But well, you don't need to procure someone now. You can simply ask it to refactor code for you, and it will does that. And if you look at the code it has refactored, you see that it has properly broken down code in modular structure, and at the end, it is also mentioning what key changes it has done, right? So you can use this tool to refactor your code. Now, what I'm going to show you next is very interesting, and I think that may be very interesting for you, because this is the problem we as a senior engineer faces usually in our day-to-day life, and that is of explaining the complex code piece to our fellow engineer, right? Especially when you don't have that documentation. Most of the time, we don't have that documentation. So if you look at, I want to generate a sequence diagram for the code that I have written. I can ask it to generate a sequence diagram. It will generate the sequence diagram. I'll copy the diagram, go to the site, and paste it. And now I have a proper sequence diagram elaborating how that code and its internal libraries are interacting with one another. So wouldn't it be nice that you first give this sequence diagram to your fellow engineer and ask him, look, this is what code is doing. Now you take a look at the code. Instead of just telling and sharing the code, like this is the code and now you figure out what it is. So this could be a nice solution for all of us who wants to, digest the written code and make it easily understandable to our fellow engineers. This is my final tool for you, and I'm sure that you all will love this tool. I'm running out of time, so I'll be very quick to explain this tool. But ChatGPT is fine, AWS Code Whisperer is fine. I think most of you have heard about GitHub Copilot. It's very similar to AWS Code Whisperer. AWS Code Whisperer excels especially if you are using AWS ecosystem. GitHub Copilot is not that much good when it comes to generate a code base which is very specific to the AWS. But Code Whisperer excels there, that's why I picked it up. But more or less, both tool offers the similar functionality. That's why I skipped it. Now the Gorilla CLI. So this tool has been developed by the people from Berkeley Institute in collaboration with Microsoft's research. So what these guys have done here is that they have created an AI model which helps you interact with your CLI in very user-friendly way, in very human way, I would say. And this tool has been fed with so many open source APIs, both commercial APIs as well as easily available APIs in the public domain. For example, Salesforce, Stripe, AWS, Google Cloud, Azure. You just name all the tools, commercial or open source, and their APIs. All these APIs are fed into this tool and make it available in a way that you simply need to interact with, like for example, in a human way. I'll just be explaining you this example for you. So this is the Gorilla CLI that I have installed on my MacBook Pro. This is the GIF that I took of my terminal. I am asking it that list all the running EC2 instances family in my Mumbai region. It is automatically suggesting me the commands, and then all I have to do is to pick the right command. And then it will also authenticate my machine with the credential that I have on my local system and present me with an output. And this gets done right from within your terminal. You don't have to go to ChatGPT and ask it to do. Even if you go to ChatGPT, it will simply generate a command, right? You still need to copy it and come back to your terminal and paste it. Well, this does it. The another example where I am asking it that count all the S3 buckets I have in my account, and if you look at the output it generates, if you see, it is piping output of one command to second command as an input, right? So it does that automatically. It literally understands the tools and the libraries that I have on my local system, and then it properly chain the output of a first command with the second command. And this is the third example where I'm asking it like, how can I connect with Salesforce Cloud programmatically? And if you see, it has presented three options. Curl, I can use Curl, I can use Conda, or I can use SFDX, which is a Salesforce command line utility. So you don't need to know all these things. You can simply go to Gorilla and ask it in a human way to do something that you want it to do. This is not just a very simple use cases. I included very simple use cases because it makes more sense to present it into the larger audience, but you can pretty much ask it to create a complex chain of command. You can ask it to generate a payment intent for Stripe, and then put the output into the PDF file. Such kind of commands are possible, and it will give you the output right away. Now, we are very short on time, so I'll just summarize what we just have discussed here. So we explore the answer for three questions, right? Our first question was what, and that we tried to look at from the different perspective. And then the second question we explored was a why. We understood that we have a problem that we want to solve. Third was a how. And in how, I tried to explain you 3 different tools from 3 different use cases. One is a conversational tool, a pretty general purpose. Another one is a ID kind of tool which lives within your ID and then you can use it. And the third one was a CLI layer that you can install for your terminals and then interact with it. All right? These 3 tools are not the only tools. You can go deeper and explore different other tools are out there, and then see how it can help you with your programming and development problems. I just want to leave all of you with the last slide that you now have Aladdin ka gene, and you know how to rub this magical oil lamp. Right? Thank you very much, guys.